Welcome to Marvel Vision, a podcast about Marvel, the MCU, and right now the premiere of Loki Season 2. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And if you haven't watched the season premiere of Loki on Disney+, please go do it. We are going to spoil it here, but brief bit of recap about Loki Season 1, and then I'll give you a brief recap of the first episode here. So Loki, we are following the Loki immediately towards the end of Avengers. This is actually in Avengers Endgame. He was portaled.
Or the end of Season 1, Loki.
Hold on.
That's true.
That is true, yes.
Picks right up.
Yeah, absolutely. But before that, this is the Loki who took a portal, used the Tesseract to bamf his way out of the situation at the end of Avengers. He was picked up by the TVA. The Time Variance Authority sucked in there, very quickly realized that they might be one of the most powerful entities, organizations in the entire multiverse. He became aware of the multiverse. He became aware that the Infinity Stones, things that he chased after his entire life, were pretty much unconsequential. He also found out about an attack on the TVA led by, as it turned out, a variant of Loki named Sylvie. Over the course of the first season of the series, he and Sylvie struck up a flirtation, struck up a sort of love, if you will, and they also struck up an agreement to track down He Who Remains, the guy who is at the head of the TVA. Turns out He Who Remains we know him now as a variant of Kang, who was keeping everything on the sacred timeline, just one timeline, keeping everything ordered. But Sylvie kicked Loki through a door, killed He Who Remains, which led to a branching of the timelines, which led to a multiverse, which led to everybody's favorite movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And then after that, Loki got back to the TVA, and we were left with a big cliffhanger where it certainly seemed like he was in an alternate timeline where Mobius, his partner, Owen Wilson, didn't know him, and Kang had taken over the TVA. We very quickly find out here in this episode that's not what happened at all. Loki has actually become unstuck in time, like Billy Pilgrim himself.
Nice,
and he's jumping back and forward. The place that he encountered Mobius was actually back in time towards the beginning of the TVA. He's jumping back and forward. Ultimately, Mobius and Loki hatch a plan using a new character called Ouroboros, played by Ke Huy Quan, who everybody loves. Obi.
Data kills it in this fucking movie.
Data, short
show.
Round, whatever you want to call him.
Unbelievable.
I always said Data.
Data? Yeah, from Star Trek, right?
Same guy?
Yeah, same guy. Same guy.
Robot.
They hatch a plan together to do a thingy and throw a harpoon and get Loki back. And that's kind of where we end up. And then we get a little bit of a stinger that catches us up with Sylvie. But there's a lot of questions, a lot of things that are going down here. Now, Pete, I know, is very excited to talk about this episode. So here's what I'm going to say. As usual on this podcast, I'm not going to say anything or offer up any opinions, and we'll just wrap it up here. If you'd like to support the show, patreon.com.
Wait, whoa. You don't wrap up the show
done.
just because you don't have opinion. There's other people on the show.
Oh. But
no, that's how it works. We can wrap it up at any time.
Right?
That's right.
Here's the main thing that I want to talk about, the Marvel flip. The Marvel flip, we didn't get too much of it. But it's
what are you talking about? We got a good Marvel flip. It got gold.
What are you talking about? We got a Marvel flip.
It's nice. Come on.
Hey,
a nice Marvel flip. We made it for you.
I felt like they played it a little low key.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
Real quick, what timeline am I in? Because I don't think this is the podcast timeline that I actually signed up for.
Here's what I'd say. I just want to establish some ground rules. This is the first time we're ever doing a podcast. So I want to say, this is the first time anybody is ever doing a podcast. What? On podcasts, people usually fill the time talking about their opinions on things, both criticism and the things that they liked about something. They go back and forth, and they have a bit of discussion about it. That's what I was thinking. That's my pitch. That's my pitch for a podcast. Oh, okay, Pete. Idea. So instead, how about this? Why don't you say a bunch of random things for, I don't know, I want to say 2.5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up here. Take it away.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't know what your beef is or what your problem is with the show.
Here's the thing. I don't even have beef. I just have.
He hasn't even said.
I haven't even said anything yet.
If it's worth it for Obi alone, I mean, he is so precious and so amazing in this episode. he makes it all worth it. It's a
Well,
fun add to this season.
let's get there then. Here, let's start at the beginning though, because it's something we've talked about. Slight meta commentary going into this is like, what's the state of Marvel TV? So it's very exciting to have this show back, which was I would say a high watermark in Marvel television from
Agreed.
a writing, performance, acting, production design, all these aspects. And it's really nice to have this show back. It's a well-made show. It continues to be. It picks right up where it stopped last
Can
time.
I add something else onto
Yes.
that? It
long
is
as it's
nice.
positive.
This is even a broader view here. It is nice to have a show back. Like something
Yeah.
that we've talked a lot about here on this podcast is, very purposefully show Marvel has treated these shows as 6-part mini movies or however many episodes that they have. And we get to the end of it and we're like, will we ever see this show again? I don't know. I'm not sure. But here, there's a certain comfort. And it sounds ridiculous to say because we know how TV shows work, but that was the big thing that I felt coming into this episode, which was like, I like the setting and I like these characters, and it's nice to come back to them, and it's nice to have a second season of something. So I was very pleased about that. I hope that's one of the big lessons Marvel takes here is, hey, we can make TV shows for TV is the thing
Yeah.
that we're doing. That would be great.
Well, and especially when it really is like and I know there were some changes in who's making the second season.
Big changes.
versus
Can we
first
mention
season.
that? There
Yeah.
was, I'm blanking on the name of the new showrunner, but the first season was showrun by Michael Waldron. Here we're getting a guy
Great show.
who, I'm probably assuming too much
Eric,
here, but
I think that's his
Eric,
name.
yeah, Eric is, he's sort of like a right hand for Michael Waldron is the impression that I get. Like he also wrote for him on Heels, which is a show on Stars, which is great that Michael Waldron did. He is taking over showrunning duties and most of the writing duties here. We're also getting two of the directors, a pair of directors who did a couple of episodes on Moon Knight, are taking over on directing all of the episodes here from Kate Herron, who was so phenomenal as director in the first season of Loki. One consistent that we're getting, my God, I really should have written down these names, but the composer who did the score, she is consistent. I was a little worried she was going to go away, but she's back and her music absolutely kills it again in the second season. So a lot of changes behind the scenes. In front of the scenes, we are getting the same cast back. So
Well, that's
Composer on Loki, Natalie Ann Holt.
Natalie Ann. Yes,
Right,
Natalie
no,
Ann.
nice. Yeah, it sucks because you would think
Natalie Holt.
the first season did so well that they would try to keep that team moving forward. So
I'm sure they tried to do that, but things changing. There was just the writer's strike. Eric Martin is the name of the showrunner for season 2. But what I was trying to say is all that stuff, great, excited to be back. One thing we talked about a lot was like, all the bad things happening in the real world with Kang. And Kang has been such a presence here. Maybe they'll downplay Kang in Loki season 2. Literally, the first shot is his face. I
or
was
they
like,
gonna
wow.
double down. Yeah, it was crazy because you see Kang right away, and I'm like, ooh, is this okay? If he's going to be a big part of this, is this because I was hoping we would kind of, I don't know, but I was like, oh wow, we're starting right here. I don't know how to feel. I don't know what's been decided or what happened. So
Well, the thing is that nothing's been decided. Marvel still has made no statement about Jonathan Majors. They haven't said anything. They haven't cut him out of the Marvel universe or anything like that. Reportedly, they haven't changed anything in the season. He's still in it the same amount that he was previously. And in terms of the real life stuff of his domestic abuse case, I believe that's the exact charges. He is supposed to have his court date finally sometime this month, which is
the timing of that, yikes.
not great. And I think what we're getting around here is, at least in terms of that, and I'm sure there's people that feel differently because whenever we've talked about this online, there are people that yell at us in the opposite direction. Go ahead, yell at us some more. That's fine. It puts a pall over the entire thing for me because, like you're saying, like we get in there like, what are we doing about Jonathan Majors? And then the entire time is like, is he going to show up? Are they going to have more Jonathan Majors? How much is
and
this
I think
gonna
the
play
answer is
into-
yes.
Yeah.
I think that Marvel's made it clear that they're not really altering their plans, at least not yet, and then they're just going to see what happens with the larger MCU storyline. But so let's say that was a surprise, but leave that aside for a second. Just from a pure story point of view, to have Kang be such a presence here, it struck me in this to be like, it's crazy for the ambition of an entire run of a show to be exposition, to be like preamble, like, and sort of like really, because like I like this episode, but it was so much like, I hope you remember everything you just watched.
Well,
at the
they
end of the last season.
recapped it in the beginning.
100%. I'm not even faulting this. I'm just saying, like, it was a perfectly joined up like Lego piece from the last season that raced into plot in this next season to the point where I was like, this was sort of a comedy in the first season, and I just wanted, and there were a couple little bit of jokes here and there, and I really loved the scene of the two time periods with Obi jumping back and forth.
The Obi thing was so funny.
Really fun, really smart, sort of like looper idea, like great mash pop culture.
Yeah,
mashup.
exactly. Like, this is ridiculous, but we're gonna kind of lean into it and have some fun. So,
but the rest of it was intensity for intensity's sake, and I was like, I liked it and it was cool, but I was like, oh, give me some fun.
Where they left things, it was intense. So I'm not mad at them for picking that up and running with it. Yes, overall, I felt like the first season was kind of laugh and fun and kind of like quirky and weird, but you got to kind of pick up where you left off and kind of at least carry that thread. So I was happy that they did do that.
Well, here, let me throw this out there, and I do want to set the ground work as well.
Set the ground?
Oh. No, I enjoyed this episode, and even though this was not my favorite episode of the TV show Loki, I still think this is like, I don't know if this is the actual expression, but like heads better than a lot
heads
of
better.
Heads better, you know.
Yeah. Heads better.
Heads
like
better.
I go into my barbershop and I say heads better. Heads better.
What?
He's like, what? What's wrong with you? I'm like,
heads
I'm
and
having
tails.
a stroke.
It's heads and tails better than a lot of the other TV shows
It's
that have come out.
DuckTales better than
Yeah.
You mean butts. It's heads and butts better. It's
Heads
butts
and butts.
better.
Yeah, what I'd say about this episode is heads butts, and I'll leave it at that. And let's wrap up.
I like
to
this.
support us.
Stop trying to end the show.
I'm just trying to end it before things go horribly wrong, Pete. I
Why
like
do
this
you think-
episode. This is better than most stuff in the MCU that has come out from TV, so I thought that was great. This is a very plot-driven episode, and I think, weirdly, what kind of got lost here in this episode, despite the fact that you're so much a part of it, was the character of Loki and delving into his emotions. This, to me, felt like, and this is another thing that I like a lot, but it felt to me a lot like a Star Trek episode where they need to solve some sort of technical problem with some
Don't put a hat on a hat.
I'm wearing a hat, and I'd be happy to put another hat on.
He's putting a hat on a show.
Yeah,
He's putting a hat on the show.
If you want heads above, you gotta get multiple hats, man.
Hats better. Heads better. Hats. Heads better with hats.
Anyway, my point being that the whole problem of Loki is unstuck on time, and they gotta go to new area of the TVA and get a doohickey to put in there to shoot out the harpoon, and they got to do all of these things at this precise moment. To me, it felt like a very Star Trek problem with a lot of technical language they're throwing out there that wasn't exactly what they did in the first season. It felt a little more fantasy than sci-fi, I would say. And Pete, don't get upset at me for offering up an opinion about something.
And honestly, like I agree with you. Like, and I don't think that's a bad. That also goes to your personal taste of what you think is which, because those things are basically a continuum that ends up being a Mobius strip that never ends of like sci-fi to fantasy. And I think what I like about the design of this show is it sort of occupies both. It has this very specific design aesthetic that contains both sci-fi and fantasy. And I think we do both. Loki's
Pete, don't react to things I'm saying on a podcast where we're talking about our opinions of how it makes us feel. Come on, what are you doing out here?
Well,
And
because
listen,
okay, here's my question: do you have something to say back to this, or are you just reacting to the fact that I'm saying something about it?
no, I just first off, that's weird to say on a podcast where that's the whole fucking point is we're just having discussions and talking about things, so maybe other people can feel and relate to stuff and feel like they're not
All
alone.
right, what do you think about this take? What do you think about this take that I felt like this leaned a little more into sci-fi than fantasy? What's your opinion on that, Pete?
Well, I'd like to say, first off, this whole show is kind of that. It plays with a lot of different things in different ways. It's mainly, hopefully, what we're going to get back to, which is silly and fun and kind of the God of Mischief. But I do think it was this kind of like very Owen Wilson centric first episode where it's a little mumbly, it's a little weird, and there's a lot of things that gotta happen, but the beats, the punches, that kind of snap back of Loki perfectly saving the kind of moment in time did feel very much like the show and was a great kind of moment of like, oh, thank God, this isn't going to fall off the rails right in the first episode.
You can tell Marvel TV's back because we literally are recording an episode where we've taken on the same tone as the episode. Like, this is a very intense, plot-driven podcast review we're doing. And like Pete said, we just have to hopefully get back to some more silly, goofy fun. But right now, we're in an intense situation where someone's lost unstuck in time, and we got to get him back. I'm the Obi here.
Oh, you're Obi?
I think so.
All right. Well, let me ask you guys another question because this was my other thing that was making me hesitant about loving this episode is like I was getting at before, what is this saying about Loki? Because every episode in the previous season was like, here's an aspect of Loki. We're going to dig into his psychology. We're really going to push. In particular, the first season was about, is he a villain? Is he always forcing himself to lose? Can he get past that? And ultimately, that's the place he reaches at the end of the first season is he stands up to Sylvie and he's like, we don't have to do this. There's a better way. We don't have to be the villain all the time. I'm paraphrasing here. I realize now we're picking up with a new emotional arc for him, but I didn't have a sense of the emotional arc here, what this says about the Loki we know. I'm curious if you guys got anything there. Pete?
Yes, I feel like that's an interesting point because I feel like his whole thing in the elevator really encompasses everything about Loki, where what he is going through is so disgusting and disturbing and also on repeat. This guy who overall tries to do good, tries to be a good person, but makes horrible decisions, has had a rough life, is kind of put in a tough situation, and is the God of Mischief. So he tries to fight against himself, and in doing so, kind of distorts and ruins himself until he can snap back into something that feels better or feels natural. So I do think there is something to what you're saying, Alex, of this thing of like, is he going to grow out of this? Is he going to get better? Or is he going to kind of continue to be not good and this broken kind of pattern of betrayal, mischief? I don't care about people. So I do think it's an interesting idea. And the kind of elevator scene of like him being like, does this look okay? Am I doing all right? And him being like, no, it's awful. It seems so painful and horrible. And then they turn, what do you think, to this random person in the elevator who's just horrified about what they are witnessing. Yeah, just such a great moment. And yeah, we are kind of stuck pulling for this character to grow and get better. And it kind of goes against everything that he is programmed for. So hopefully that does happen.
I think he's sort of in full hero mode. He's trying to solve this. He's on his own. He's suffering for this. He's up against a world that doesn't understand him. He only has one sort of friend who also isn't fully on board with him. I think it's going to be a full hero arc for the run of the series.
I hope you're right.
Eventually getting to a more mischievous Loki at the end, assuming that's setting him up to sort of be that more in the future.
Well, you started to make sense, but then at the end you kind of went backwards. I feel like when you say more mischievous, you mean in a good way, right? Not
Meaning sort of like potentially villainous, tricking people out for himself.
Like
Because
a
like,
Lucky the Leprechaun type thing.
yeah, the leprechaun who wants your Lucky Charms, you're saying.
Yeah, there it is.
Alex,
there it
if
is,
I may point.
Yeah, you moved the box. It's a big deal.
I did.
Frosted
I
Lucky
put my
Charms.
Loki charms over there, so there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frosted Loki Charms.
Also
They're
wearing
magically
a
mischievous.
Simpsons, The Good, the Bad, and the Loki hat. I'm very on theme today.
Wow, this
Well, I
guy's
guess
on
this
board.
is the part of the episode where we're just plugging stuff.
He's plug your hat.
Hey.
Head's better. Head's
Yeah,
better with
plugging
that.
Lucky
Loki on our
charms.
Loki podcast. Sorry about that.
Let's see Lucky Charms more.
What?
I don't know. Can I ask another question? This is less thematic and more plot wise. Something that I feel like I missed something that he was saying or something like that. So, at the end of the episode, when Mobius needs to go outside, shoot the harpoon into the timelines to bring
Grab
Loki
him, pull him back.
Loki is going to need to prune himself. For some reason, they can't get somebody else there to do it. But
What other person is there?
I don't know. Obi, for example, could do it potentially, but he needs to stand there and watch the computers and press the button. I get it. But Loki immediately is like, okay, time to leave this room and go somewhere else. Where is he going and why is he doing that? Like, I know ultimately he sees Sylvie in the elevator and gets pruned, but why does he leave in the first place? Why is he running around the TVA?
And why didn't he pick up the phone that was ringing the whole time? And
Great
it was driving me
question.
nuts?
Great follow-up question.
Answer the phone. Why won't you answer the phone?
I don't know the answer to these questions, and that's sort of a problem, I think. So much of that whole run of scenes was Mobius's POV, who was saying the same things that we're saying now, like, what? Wait, we have to wait. And Obi was like, well, I don't know. I'm pressing this button. So like it was sort of a 3-part run where the character was making all the decisions. We don't know why or how, or he felt a little bit out of our reach, literally and visually in the show. So I don't understand that either.
There was a moment. It's Hunter B-15, right? That's the name of the character.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so
There's
Hunter B-15,
X5.
it felt to me like there was some version of the script where Hunter B-15 was like, okay, and then I'll prune you, and then she hears the thing that's going on with, I think the character's name is Dox, who's the captain who's leaving with all the weapons, and goes after them, and then they had no follow-up dialogue about him being like, all right, I guess I'll have to prune myself. Instead, they kind of like cut through all of that dialogue and cut it out. So I don't know. It felt like there were a couple of things missing there potentially. But I don't know. I also like her, by the way. She's great to have back.
Oh my
Such a
God,
good presence. And she's one that feels like we got a total 180 on her character here, but there's still a continuity of it because she was the hard-driven hunter in the first season. Sylvie unlocked her memories, and now she is the one. He was basically in charge of the TVA and protecting not the sacred timeline, but all the timelines. And I love it. I think that's a really good place for the character to be.
She's like a stabilizing presence in a show
Yeah.
where everyone's sort of like hair on fire running around all the time.
Yeah, and I also really like how she is steadfast and like, no. Pruning people is an awful idea. You're killing somebody's whole timeline and who they are. So yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And how steadfast she is on that. So yeah, I agree with you. She's a great kind of rock in this madness for sure. But I really can't stress enough how great Obi is. I love the line where he's like, "You've got an hour," and then there's a crack, and there's you got 5 minutes. It's just hysterical. He's
just a great comic presence.
He really is.
And what do you think about him? The fact that he was cast in this, in a role and a story that is very similar in some ways to Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like it felt a little close to me. Especially that fun scene.
I thought it was like just a perfect kind of like, who can we get that'll just brighten up what's happening?
Definitely.
And it was just such a perfect choice of like.
I love him. I was just surprised about how close the story is like Everything Everywhere All at Once, and to have the same actor doing it to me it's just like one step out of the show.
It feels to me, I'm not sure what the deal with the whole time slipping thing is, particularly now that they seem to have solved it in this first episode. basically it's not clear to me like what the shape of this season is yet. Is it all middle leading up to the introduction of Kang officially into the MCU, and then we're going to lead into Secret Wars and all of this other stuff? Is it its own entity and we're going to finish up there? Or is it potentially, and this is my fondest hope, it's going to make it's going to tell its own story about the TVA and Loki over the course of 6 episodes and make a convincing argument to have an ongoing series called Loki that's set at the TVA. Because this is something we talked about a little bit, I think, when the trailer came out, that based on the other footage, it seems like its own take on time travel and in this season and its own plot and thrust. And I love that. Like, even if it's not quite as good as first season, give me a slightly different take on time travel every season of Loki. Go for 7 seasons. Awesome. That would be great.
Well, and I sort of like the idea, to your point, like getting Loki to be in the TVA and have it settle a little bit at the end of the season. If this second season, if this 2-part season, these 2 seasons, is about establishing Kang, I sort of want to get, if we've dealt with the crisis, then I want to get to the Kang part, and then sort of whatever that conclusion is. The only hard part is there's no conclusion. We know there's no conclusion to Kang. It's still, we're in this like Kang throat clearing and like getting to Kang all the time. But again, it's just a hard problem to have your main villain that everyone's really scared of and have to deal with. We know he's not going to be defeated here.
Mm-hmm. Well, at this point, he's been killed, what, 3 times or something like that?
They can definitely kill him. I just think that, like, I got high hopes for the season, and we're only 1 in, but man, so far the acting choices are just absolutely phenomenal. I think that it's really.
Can I throw out one more criticism at the risk of poking the bear? I really liked a lot of the shots here. They felt consistent with Kate Herron's direction in the first season, but there was what I felt like was a very specific choice to have handheld in a bunch of the shots, particularly at the beginning when Loki is running around. And I think probably the idea was Loki is destabilized. He doesn't know what's going on, so we're going to keep it very handheld and follow him. But it felt counter to the aesthetic of the show to me. It felt a little too naturalistic, and it took me out of the episode whenever they relied on that. Particularly, there were a couple of scenes once they introduced Ouroboros where they had some great shots, like we were talking about, of the camera sort of just on a tripod or however they're doing it, swinging back and forth, going from person to person. And then they would cut to some handheld, and then they'd go back. And I don't know, it didn't feel
sort of
weird. I didn't notice.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It took me out.
Yeah.
And just to mention, I think the reason it took me out is because Kate Herron was so strong in the first season and so confident in everything. Like, I remember every episode we talked about these insane standout visual scenes that she and the rest of the team had created, and I was missing that a little bit here, though.
And that paired with the production design, I think, is really standout here.
That's what I was going to call out, is that, like, even in the middle of all of that, the production design is impeccable. I was very hesitant about the idea of Mobius wanders out into yet another Marvel multicolored void space type area, but this one looked really good, and the way that they depicted it with the colors just hitting him and him starting to flake off, playing off the whole joke with the skin peeling off and everything, but making it feel real and palpable and dangerous, I thought that looked really nice.
Agreed.
Yeah, I was impressed with how things looked. I also, even when they kind of like hit the wall and kind of revealed the Kang, I thought it all looked really good.
Yeah. Any other notes from the episode that you want to call out? Any other things in particular?
Are you guys hungry for some Mickey D's at all?
Oh, man.
Oh, should we talk about that? I hate that.
Yes.
I hate it. I straight up hate it.
Chicken McNugs, they're brand new.
You wouldn't want to, if you could travel back in time, you wouldn't want to go to the first Mickey D's ever? Not once?
Nope.
Not after you killed baby Hitler? You wouldn't want to go to...
So there is a little bit of an Easter egg. So
Big
just
Mac?
to mention, we're talking about there's a post-credit scene, in case you missed it, immediately after the main credits. We cut it on Sylvie.
Justin, just in case you missed it.
She is
I would never.
She is in Broxton, which is a shout out to a classic Thor run by J. Michael Straczynski, where Thor and the rest of the gods, they settled in a town called Broxton. I think Was Broxton also the town in the first Thor movie as well? Am I getting that wrong?
I don't know. I would assume it is.
Yeah. Whatever it is, she shows up there. It's in a branch timeline. They're very specific about that now that we have branch timelines. She sees a McDonald's, goes in, and sees how happy everybody is and decides that's where she wants to be. We know she's going to want to be there based on the trailers and the ongoing months-long McDonald's promotion that's happening at every McDonald's in the United States.
Yeah. Loki sauce. Broxton's is where the hammer falls.
There we go.
Right.
The thing that bothers me about it, and I know I've said this on this podcast before, is like it really being McDonald's takes me out of the whole thing versus it being
You
like
wanted
that.
it to be like McDowell's.
Yeah, I wanted to, yes. Shout
Roddy
out to
McDowell's.
Coming to America. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. No, but like a McRoxton's or something like that. Like I wanted to be something in Marvel, or she goes into a diner and she sees everybody happy or something like that. It being McDonald's, I felt like she's walking into a McDonald's commercial, and part of this I will totally cop to is I don't have positive association with McDonald's. I don't like McDonald's. I don't like the food there or anything like that.
That's you. That's all you.
But well, I did this thing where I ate nothing McDonald's for 30 days and I filmed a documentary about it. And then when I was done and I completely wrecked my body, I found out somebody had already fucking done that.
Yeah.
And I waste my whole 30 days.
You did, and then you did the same thing with the Oreos. All the different kinds of Oreos you can eat.
That's just true. That's your life.
I thought you said the Orioles, which is also true. I ate all of the Baltimore Orioles one after another.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yes. That was called baseball cider.
I could see why it would pull you out of it, but it's I don't know why, because maybe it just fit the design of the show. It really felt like just another set on the show. And it was just like, I don't know, it was kind of weirdly funny to me that she ended up, after all she's been through, she ended up at a McDonald's. I felt like a Fifth Element kind of thing to me, where I was just like, oh yeah.
Well, if you
Can't eat rat faces anymore or anything with a face, I'll just go to McDonald's. You know what? Fuck it. You know?
That's definitely the best selling point for McDonald's is if you're done eating rat faces, go to McDonald's.
If you're stuck in a time loop and you can't get any real food, they'll spit you out of McDonald's at the
Now
end.
that's a commercial right there.
Yeah.
Anything else? Pete?
Well, I glad that they kind of, because they talked about her a lot and we got to see her for a little bit. So I was happy that after the credits, you got a little bit more time with her. It was weird. There was a lot of different things that I was kind of like when I saw her in line at McDonald's, where I was thinking about falling down. I was thinking about a lot of different people losing their mind in McDonald's. You know, and I was like, could go either way.
This is the McDonald's thing. Did you think about the way she opened up that elevator super weird with her hands like sort of
That was weird.
stretched? That was very strange.
Hey man, it's hard opening.
Also,
up an elevator from that side.
while we're talking about doors, my favorite subject, the door to the room that they went into where they went down onto the bridge, that was like a straight up X-Men door. Like, I know that's not what they were shouting it out. I 100% guarantee you that somebody is going to put up an article and be like, is this door teasing the X-Men and the MCU?
Danger
I mean,
room.
it should be you. Now, do you think
that.
Sylvie's going to get to live all the different iterations of McDonald's, like the guy with the moon face, the McDLT, where you mix the hot and the cold together?
Well, she's gonna say, I want one of everything, and they're gonna be like, I'm sorry, we just stopped serving breakfast, so you can't get one of
she's
everything.
been
She's
there.
gonna then that you get to a falling down situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, see, I've been on the other side of that at the Delancey Street McDonald's. I've been there when they go from dinner to breakfast, and that's the
that's the worst. You're like, I don't want breakfast. Yeah.
I'd end up bargaining for a fillet of fish that had been on the shelf for literally the whole night.
That's a very
My friends called me a
for
scab.
fillet of fish.
My friends called me a scab.
I think I would have liked it better if it was a Burger King, I think. That would have made more sense.
Oh, that would have made more
Wow.
sense. Oh, okay. You're
What
more
are
Like
you-
at an Arby's, she went into an Arby's. And she was like, give me a handful of roast beef, man.
how much for a handful? Oh man.
That would have been a coup if she'd gone into an Arby's.
It is, let's be honest, if you've mostly been eating rat faces, it's a closer to go to an Arby's.
Easier. I think they have a rat-faced dish.
I'd rather
on the menu.
prune myself than go to an Arby's. I think.
Let me ask you guys a quick theory about that. Loki gets pruned in front of the elevator. Who's pruning Loki? Let's move to our next section, the section we always do on the show. Who's pruning Loki?
Who's pruning?
Probably
Loki?
a Loki. Isn't it
probably.
Loki? Right?
Was it weird that I was happily comforted by the fact that Owen Wilson was talking about jet skis again in such a fun manner that I was just like, oh, I can listen
If
to
they
him
don't
talk
bring in a
about
jet ski this season, bad show.
Riot.
I'm gonna say
That was
bad
definitely what constituted the big comedic move of this episode, and it was that.
Yeah. All right. That seems like a good place to start wrapping this up. Why don't we actually move to our next section, which is our vision board, where we look ahead at what we want to happen in the next episode. Justin.
Wait, I just wanted to say
Our vision board, where we move backwards and talk about something the episode takes.
It's like the episode. We're moving through time.
yeah, exactly. There was a couple more OB moments that like.
See, ironically, I remember Pete doing this now that he's going back in time.
Yeah. The whole like crack on his thing and they just put tape on it. Like, if you had any other actor talking about like how, oh, I don't think so. And then like, what did he say? There was something that he kind of repeated twice that was just so funny both times where he was like, I don't recall, I'm having trouble reconciling that. That's what it was. Oh my God, that was so funny. The delivery and just the use of him. I know I've been talking about it, but I just wanted to get those out. And it was just so pitch perfect. And the elevator scene when they pan to that girl.
How many times have you talked about that?
I know.
You love it.
It's just that this show is funny. You know, like Jason. Like, I love that we also got that guy who is just kind of like revealed how stupid the Infinity Stones are. Like
Eugene
this
Cordero.
show- yeah.
I was going to shout out Eugene Cordero.
Yeah, can we
guy I know
please?
back from UCB days. Yes, great guy. Love to see him in the show.
Also a big fan and old friend, but it just there's certain beats and certain things that do make it feel like season one and hit the comedy. And I think once we get kind of past some things, we'll kind of get back to that. But we got real kind of like snippets here and just yeah. So sorry, I had to go off a little bit, but please, Salvatron.
No, that's fine. Listen, there are comedic moments throughout. The cast has a great rapport. Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston are great together. Like I was saying, towards the beginning, there is a comfort in coming back to this, which is why TV shows don't just run 6 episodes and never again. It's why you come back to these things, is because it's pleasing to see these things again.
The whole conversation about how uncomfortable it is to watch him time slip was very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. That was great. You know what I loved is there was a scene in the elevator where they're talking about how gross that is, and they pad over to this girl. Very funny.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that up. I wanted to talk about that.
Oh God, now I'm in a time loop. The thing on my vision board, I want to see them really get the TVA back organized. I think that's going to be a big part of the season, and I love that idea. Let's see it.
Pete, what about you? What's on your vision board?
Well, I think what we're going to learn over the season is that if your landline is ringing, you shouldn't pick it up because who's really calling you on a landline? You know what I mean? Like you should just ignore that.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be good news. You know what I mean?
I wish I had a phone that an old person would be on anytime I picked it up.
Hello?
Really?
Hello? Yeah.
Can you get me McDonald's, Justin?
Yes, but what those fresh nugs? I want Loki sauce.
No, but I do think for my vision board, I just want a little bit of more of the cast kind of together because it is a great cast, and right now things are a little kind of panicked, but I do hope we kind of get to enjoy them more because individually they're fantastic, but together they're unstoppable.
I just want to see more Loki. Like I was saying earlier, I want to see why
alligator Loki or just regular Loki.
Loki.
Any and all Lokis. The show is called Loki. I want to see the emotional cost on Loki, thematically what we are saying about Loki. I want to see that connection there. And if we get that, all of the other pieces are in place, I'm going to be very happy. And you are going to be very happy if you support our podcast at patreon.com/comic book club. As I said 35 minutes ago, we could have saved 35 minutes here, guys. We could have saved a lot of time.
Sorry.
I don't need that time. I like this time.
We do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Facebook and YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about Loki. Apple, Spotify, Android, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Comic Book Live on Twitter/X, Comic Book Club Live on Instagram and TikTok, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, stay marvelous.
Heads better with hats on hats. Bye-bye.